Hello, my name is Lauren McAfee, and I'll be giving speech 3. Here is my audience. Very good. Yes. Note cards. Be it 3 note cards. And then my visual aid will be pictures. Alright, and I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Alright, in school, every kid learns about how the first man walked on the moon. We learn about all the Apollo missions and how the race between Russia and America and to see who can get to the moon first. Now, though we learned about the first Apollo mission with the first man on the moon, there are many other Apollo missions that are as significant. One of those being Apollo 13. In quote, on April 13, 1970, the famous line, "Houston, we have a problem here," was spoken by Jack Swigert after the oxygen tank failed 200,000 miles from the Earth, end quote, Curtin University Wire. I have done a profound research through magazines, books, interviews, and websites to compile what I believe is the best summary and the explanation of what happened and what went down onto Apollo 13. My plan by the end of the speech is to give you a summary on what happened, what made everything go wrong, what went wrong, how the crewmates responded, and then the departure, how they were able to safely make it home. Okay, so before I begin, I'd like to talk about who the crewmates were. It was Jane Lovell, who was the commander, Fred Hayes, who was a lunar module pilot, and Swigert, who was the command module. And this is what they look like. Very happy men. All right, so my point 1. Apollo 13 mission failed due to numerous issues like oxygen tanks depleting, power tanks decreasing, lack of water, removing of carbon dioxide, and a lot of navigation errors, and we will get into that shortly. In quote, ground tests before launch indicated the possibility of a poorly insulated helium tank in the lunar module, end quote, Dunbar, Apollo 13, NASA. Now, of course, they didn't suspect it at first. It indicated it, but their indication can prove that it might actually happen. So what led to the oxygen tank combusting up in space was that they removed the one from Apollo 10, and then they modified it and then put it on to Apollo 13. But what happened was it got damaged when it was being modified. They were able to take it off and then test it again, and then it indicated no problems. Now, of course, like a tire, once it gets busted once, it's likely to happen again. At first, there was no issues, but, in quote, after 55 hours and 46 minutes up in the sky, oxygen tank blew up, and then causing not only that one to fail, but also the first one to fail, end of quote, Curtin. It became a quick scramble to figure out how to safely figure out an emergency plan and how to get these men into safety, because no one suspected this to happen. In quote, the trip marked by discomfort began the lack of food and water. Sleep was almost impossible because of the cold. It dropped down to 38 degrees, and there was concerns of the lack of food and water, end of quote, Dunbar. Now, my second point would be how crewmates responded. Now, they had to respond quickly and effectively because they were out in space. And so if they didn't respond quickly and effectively, they would... Anyways. Yeah, so they had to respond quickly and effectively. And at first, they thought it was their crewmate Fred who was messing with them. He has a tendency to mess with them, and Lovell called him funny. But they quickly were able to figure out that he... was not the one messing. In quote, he would pull on I think it was an oxygen valve or something. Oh, I lost it. And it sort of gave a loud bang too, in quote, states Lovell in Astronomy's interview. Lovell quickly saw that they were losing gas, and those gas was oxygen. So he was able to quickly figure out that it wasn't his buddy messing with him, it was actually something more serious. The astronauts transferred guidance and information from the command to lunar, and then they were able to store power that way. They were also losing power, and so it was best for them to save as much power as they could. Astronomy asked how Lavelle responded to the incident, and he was saying that they were scared, but they were able to pull it together and figure out a situation. They were able to talk to people on the ground and say, hey, it's probably best for us to go into the lunar module to save energy and to save power and to save oxygen, because there's more oxygen now in the lunar module than there was in the command module. In quote, navigation had also become a major issue, end of quote, curtain. They were on a free return trajectory, and they were actually on April 14, 1970, they swung around the moon. Navigation is super hard on the lunar module because the lunar module was not meant as an escape pod. It was simply just meant to go onto the moon and then get off the moon. And this is what the lunar module looks like. So again, not meant to be a spaceship, but it had to be for the men's safety. And point 3, though it was difficult to navigate, they were able to do it. So they were able to figure out quickly how to navigate the LM and then move upon that way. Now, of course, when they were navigating and heading back towards the Earth, the temperatures kept dropping, again down to 38 degrees, and the men actually got sick. Fred, who's a lunar module expertise, got a flu, and they had to handle that quickly as possible, but they were able to successfully land. 3 hours later, in quote, the crew left the lunar module Aquarius and then splashed down gently the Pacific Ocean near Samoa, Dunbar. So again, they were able to figure out what they needed to do and then get home safely and as quickly as possible. Astronomy asked Lavelle what his thoughts were as they splashed into the ocean, and he said, in quote, it was a one of pure delight, end of quote. All astronauts were safe, and they launched and landed between April 11th to the April 17th, 1970. It was 5 days long, 22 hours and 54 minutes. The total distance they were able to travel was 622,268 miles. As we have seen, the Apollo mission was successful in reaching the moon, but not landing on the moon. It was known for the Houston, we are in trouble quote. And it was terrifying, but also amazing. The fact that space is amazing and terrifying. And in situations like this, you never can truly predict what's going to happen, which is why you have to plan accordingly, and which is what the men did on Apollo 13. Thank you.